Hello, so it's that time again to record another video. I've made some small progress in various areas, so I thought I would create another video. And also I've got this kind of cool irradiated area, which doesn't do anything at the moment, and this door doesn't work. I've got a bunch of stuff that doesn't work, basically. I've tried to improve the look and feel of the level. I'm only going to do that to a certain extent, because then I really need to find somebody who can do it properly. But getting all the actual room pieces kind of in is kind of useful. Actually figuring out what room types there are in order to know how it's all going to fit together. So the way doors are going to work is probably there's going to be an icon overhead that you can select to lock them shut. Otherwise they probably will just open automatically. I'll cover doors in a later video once I figure out how they're going to work, but that's something what they're going to look like. All of these pieces I've actually got in Blender, and all the sizes. This, for example, this is the connection type, side connection type, the standard connector. All of these rooms abide by this connector. So I can, for example, I don't currently like this room that much. I can at some point remake it. If I've got a bit of free time, just open Blender and just put together a new room, for example. It doesn't matter too much. Just for testing at the moment, I've got navigation working. So these are these green cuboids that represent units somehow. Sort of wander about. They're using A star to go through all the rooms, to search through all the rooms to go from A to B. And then once within a room, they do another search, which is here, for example, in this lower ladder section. These grey cubes are waypoints, and it uses these. Doesn't use A star because you can see here they're quite simple, just a simple path, single path. Just use some tree search, exhaustive tree search, just to find the route through the room to get to the next room, and that's how they're navigating. This is a bit wrong actually, because this line here, the vertical one, is meant to be climbing the ladder, so it should be up against the wall climbing the ladder, which it isn't. It's working with stairs at the moment. I've also put in these cursor context sensitive stuff. So if you've got a unit selected and you hover over part of the floor you can walk to, the cursor changes to indicate that. At the moment it's just a simple square, I'm not even sure you can see it, but that's because I haven't got an icon at the moment for walk target or ladder target or something. The way that's working is I've created this nav collider, which is really just a physics collider that's associated with a navigation type here. At the moment I've got floor or ladder. Depending on what that is, it'll then display a different icon. So wherever the mouse cursor is every frame, it does a raycast into the level, and if it hits one of these nav colliders, that's how it gets the type in order to determine what the cursor's over. Eventually there might be equipment in some of these rooms, and they will have nav colliders, and when you hover over those it will display an icon like a cog or a spanner or something to indicate that if you right click on that equipment, not only will the unit navigate to that room, but it will also then use that equipment. Because the way the game's going to work is you control a bunch of units, and the way the player interacts with the level is through the unit. So the player will direct units to do things like open doors or use equipment or so forth. One of the key parts of the game is going to be avoiding enemies. Avoiding enemies or taking out enemies. In any case, there's going to be like some sort of survival element to it of just being careful. So your units will have weapons, or some of them will have weapons, and the player's going to have to position them carefully to make sure that they're defended. For example, the player could decide to place a unit here to defend this door. Now this green stuff here is, I was looking at a way of representing like an irradiated area. I guess it could be pulsing slightly. And there's other things like barrels with some radiation or something. I don't know where the radiation has come from. I mean, who has barrels of radiation? I'm just lying about. But the idea is anyway that only certain units with shielding of some sort, like a hazmat suit or something, would be able to pass through those areas. So if you've only got one of those, if the player's only got one of those units, then they've got to decide, do they send that unit alone ahead down this corridor to see what's down there, or do they just avoid it and everyone sticks together? So it's that kind of does everyone split up kind of thing. And really the game, I'm going to try and, hopefully I get to the stage where I'm actually designing some of that stuff, because that kind of stuff's a bit more interesting. At the moment I'm just working on this foundation stuff of how do I fit rooms together, how do I create them on the grid, and how navigation works and so forth. But ultimately the game, a lot of the design is going to be about features that kind of lead the player to decide between how to split units up. Like, for example, if you have got equipment in this room, you might have to leave a unit there to work on it. So immediately you're splitting up your team. So I think that's about it. Once I start working on, which I'm sort of dreading because the possible complexity of it, the algorithm that's going to actually procedurally generate levels, that's going to have to do things. Possibly, it's going to have to try and do things like wherever it places, say like something like this radiation thing. Any area that's hard to access or is dangerous will tend to, not always though, but tend to have some sort of reward with it if you actually go through with it. So maybe there's like a quite a good item or weapon or something further down this corridor. So that's just a kind of it's all about making the player face the play with difficult decisions. The decisions have to be difficult to make it interesting, I think. I'll see how that goes anyway. That's about it, I think, for this video. So thank you for watching.